Hey, I got a question, man. I'm sure you've heard this multiple times, but I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it, and I'm an Orthodox Christian myself. But I'm just struggling with the question of if if God is all knowing and all powerful, then what would be the point in creating beings He would knew are going to hell anyways in the end? Like, just seems kind of cruel to me. I myself would rather have just never been born if I knew that I was going to go to hell in the end. That's, I guess, my question.
Well, I mean, I think the difference between Western Christianity and its emphasis on predestinarianism, whether it's Augustine, Aquinas, or Calvin, like they all stress predestination and the direct causation of the divine decree with Calvin, for example. The difference is that I think in the Orthodox conception, God created out of his own goodness, not because of any need or any lack or any vengeance or vindictiveness. And in the Orthodox view, the only thing that sends you to hell, quote unquote, is your own actions and your own free will. So the difference is that we stress the responsibility of our own volition versus worldviews that stress the causation of God, so the direct causation of God. So I would say that it's still better to exist than to not exist, because God created those beings with the potential to be with him. And he didn't do that because he lacked, anything or needed anything. He did that for the creatures themselves. So,
I think a good point too is that when we see like the story of Lazarus and the rich man, like we see that the rich man, he isn't sitting there begging, saying, "I wish I would have changed my life. I wish I would have done this." We see him still doing like the same sins that he was doing on earth. He was still treating Lazarus like a servant, even when he was in Hades at that point, right? So he's non-repentant even when you die. So I think that we have to understand that people in hell, like a lot of people have this notion that the people in hell are going to be like, "Oh my gosh,
right.
like
Exactly.
now I want Christ." No, that's not the case. They're still continuing sinning. That's why hell is eternal, because they're put in such an unrepentant state that they'll never return. There's no chance for them to ever return to Christ.
Yeah, this is the point of that C.S. Lewis book, Marriage of Heaven and Hell. If you never read it, I recommend it, because the point of the book is that in this fantasy fiction, like there's a bus that takes people from hell to heaven, and the people from hell that go to heaven absolutely hate it. Everything about heaven just makes them miserable. It's a torturous thing, and they would rather be away from God than in God's presence, because they've already decided that they don't love God. So it's a very different conception of hell than the sort of Latin Dante's thing where you're thrown into lakes of fire or you're frozen in a giant pool of ice or whatever. Like, it's a very different conception, because it's basically saying it's the Great Divorce, not Marriage. Marriage of Heaven and Hell is the universalist book that C.S. Lewis is writing against. Thank you, chat.